Kansas State had another great transfer portal, and the momentum is shifting them to be a team that can make a deep run into potentially the college football playoffs in 2025. The best part about it, they're not done yet.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. Let's dive into another episode, diving into a college football episode and just talking about how great this transfer portal really has been. We're going to back it up with some knowledge, some facts, and just straight spitting facts. That's what we're doing on this show today. Before we dive into that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. The best part about this, they're not done in the transfer portal. And that's the best part. We're going to talk about that later on in the show. We're going to finish off the show with a little bit of QB1 talk potentially in the NFL. And what does that mean for future Kansas State quarterbacks heading into the NFL as well? And I say that how we're going to wrap up the show because we're kind of going to sandwich it around Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson, obviously the backbone of this team. And there was some rumors, and none of them were Kansas State rumors. They were just kind of all fallacies about him potentially leaving in the spring portal because Tennessee needed a quarterback. I put out a show reminding Tennessee fans how delusional they were if they thought that Avery Johnson was ever going to leave Kansas State. And of course, he's here and he's going to lead the charge for this team in the 2025. The reason I bring that up is because ESPN Heather Dinich brought out an article just on Wednesday, college football playoff impact, players who stuck around, and ranked the players who thought had the biggest impact not leaving in the portal to help their team make a potential appearance in the college football playoffs. Avery Johnson makes the list. He comes in at number 7 on this list. Now, for the record, the players ahead of them, with the exception of number 4, which is the running back duo of Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, the running backs for Penn State, every single one of them above them are quarterbacks as well. And that kind of makes sense because the quarterback is the most important position on the field when you're building a program, talking about a program, and just instant success. It's a lot easier to build around a narrative when you're talking about a quarterback. But let's talk about what was said about Avery Johnson. The decision was obviously to avoid the transfer portal. When she said about what his return means, she said, quote, K-State can win another wide open Big 12 race and earn an automatic bid in the playoff as one of the 5 highest ranked conference champions. Johnson never entered the transfer portal, but attracted interest, especially after the delusional Tennessee fans lost Nico. We got a damn wall around him, a K-State source told ESPN. And that's right, got a wall built around him. And I think they're not just talking about those great offensive linemen they just brought in the portal like J.B. Nelson and Terrence Enos Jr. I'm talking about the support system around Avery Johnson. Expectations will be higher this year for Johnson, who threw 2,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, and of course those 10 interceptions that everybody likes to talk about other than the actual good stats that Avery Johnson took care of in his first full season under center. Also had 605 rushing yards, folks. This guy need to remind you, and he was injured a couple games, wasn't 100% a couple games, but he is a dual threat quarterback. With now some depth at wide receiver, K-State's passing game could flourish this fall. So look at this, by the way. We're finally getting a little bit of national media attention, and they're kind of spot on. Usually you kind of have to have some rebuttal. On yesterday's show, I talked about how the national media was completely outrageous, not putting Avery Johnson even in their top 10 of quarterbacks, about K-State not even being in their post-spring portal top 25. But this one, pretty spot on. Avery Johnson is an absolute dual threat quarterback that is going to make an impact for K-State, has a big opportunity to make this team become Big 12 champions yet again, just like they did in 2022, find themselves in an automatic bid as one of the 5 highest ranked conference champions, most likely get a first round bye. And that's all thanks to what he can do on the field, what this staff has done around him in the transfer portal, either not leaving like Avery Johnson, but some of the other players not leaving, and then the reinforcements they brought in the winter and spring. Wide receiver group, absolutely reloaded. The size, are you kidding me? Tight end room's already insane. So the momentum continues. And now ESPN is trying to get a little bit of that juice, bring it over to K-State. I love this type of juice when you get it right. You can say negative things in a negative light or criticize Kansas State if it's right. I have no problem with that. And nor should anyone else, because I think criticism is important. They got it spot on this time. And it's in a positive light. I think the only thing I would say is number 7, at least you're on the list this time. Some of the other quarterbacks above him, Luke Altmaier of Illinois, Lenore Sellers of South Carolina, Cade Klubnik of Clemson, Drew Aller of Penn State, and at number 1 was Garrett Nussmeier of LSU. And some of these decisions were not about entering the transfer portal. It was foregoing the NFL draft. Was something Avery Johnson couldn't have done. So he's eligible now. So something interesting just to keep in mind moving down the road. This transfer portal has been absolutely insane. It has been very good, and we're going to combine it together. Now that both of them are closed, when we talk transfer portal, we're not talking winter and spring. We're just talking one big transfer portal. On3 loved it. Some of these national rankings, On3 absolutely loved this transfer portal window. Ranked them as the 3rd best transfer portal window in the Big 12. And I couldn't agree more, being towards the top. The only 2 teams ahead of them, Texas Tech, which is not surprising. I think Texas Tech is the number 1 portal class in the country right now with the amount of players that they brought in. They spent over $6 million, I believe. I take that back. It's adjusted NIL value over $6 million. So it's a lot more than that. It's $6 million more compared to the players that left in their NIL money. And then at number 2 is Baylor. So at number 3, they have Kansas State. Around the top 5, Cincinnati and Colorado. Speaking of Colorado, one of the recent players that just entered the transfer portal for Kansas State, Noah King, former 4-star cornerback that was in this freshman class, committed to go with Deion Sanders to head to the Colorado Buffaloes. So we will have potentially an opportunity to see him on the field this coming season in Big 12 play. I always love to wish Kansas State players luck when they go to other places, but I'll be honest with you, when you go to a Big 12 school, I wish you luck, but it's a lot slighter. It's a lot less when you go to a conference foe. I don't think I'm the only one feeling that way whatsoever. Let's round out the top 10 real quick. Oklahoma State, UCF, Arizona State, the Big 12 champion winners, only 8th in the portal, and then Houston and little brother Kansas at 10. So, all right. Number 3 in the transfer portal rankings. And again, I think they did a great job in this portal overall. Winter, they absolutely cooked. And then heading into the spring portal, didn't think they needed that much needs. It turned into that with the whole what was happening with the 105, although that seems to be gone now. But they still bring in some really big pieces on the offensive line with J.B. Nelson, with Terrence Enos Jr., who both potentially could be starting on this offensive line this year. And that's not saying ill will towards the other players on this offensive line. It's just that's how good these players are coming in, especially J.B. Nelson, with the experience coming in with over 30 games played for Penn State, and who was in the college football national semifinals this past season. So lots of great things coming for Kansas State when it comes to this portal, and I don't think they're done yet. Actually, I know they're not done yet because I think they absolutely have to add at least one more piece in this position group. We'll talk about that next to lead off the next segment right here on Locked On Kansas State. This episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn on any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, and sign into an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 or Call of Duty. It's easy. And as you stream your favorite shows, I love it, especially for traveling right now. I'm getting ready to travel. I don't have one of those huge consoles. Being able to travel with that Fire Stick TV 4K is perfect. I can be able to have all my games. All I need is that and a controller, and I'm set. I don't have to worry about lugging around some huge console. So head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We are bringing you Locked On Kansas State coverage like no one else here on the show. And for the record, if you're listening on audio, thank you so much for listening. I actually reward my audio listeners. If you're listening on YouTube, if you've always been watching on YouTube, I reward my audio listeners. Every episode, unless it's a live episode, gets put out on the audio feed first. So if you're on your morning commute and you don't see it on YouTube yet, it could potentially be on the audio feed. So head on over, check it out. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, Locked On Kansas State. We're digging into the transfer portal, just talking about how great it has been for Chris Kleiman and this recruiting staff, the coaching staff, you name it. It continues this momentum trend that we talk about since the Rate Bowl against Rutgers, adding in this great recruiting class, then the winter. Then we head into the spring, and the spring is just as good, because no one left that of this high importance. And then we add to this great team that is already here in Manhattan. But they're not done yet. And although I don't have any actual insider information at this moment, they can't be done yet. Because to my count, there's 108 players on this team, and not that that might even matter anymore. Ross Dellinger reported just as of late that they're still waiting on this hearing. We'll see what happens moving forward, but they're still waiting on will it be grandfathered in? Will this roster size with this Senate hearing, will this revenue sharing deal be grandfathered in? I think we're getting more to a point of, will they actually force teams to grandfather them in, or just let them go with whatever roster they feel like? I think that's going to be the biggest question now. But regardless, they're at 108 players right now after the J.B. Nelson and Terrence Eno signing. If you have to get down, there's a couple players you could still cut or still move on from. They won't have the opportunity to enter the portal, though, at least as of right now. We'll see if that changes in the future. And I don't even know if that even matters, because we've seen that in the past not matter. For example, the whole Wisconsin-Miami cornerback fiasco. I think his name's Xavier Lucas. So what else needs to be done? Well, when you're looking at the roster and how many players are in each position group, there's only 5 running backs on this roster right now. You brought Gabe Irvin in the winter transfer portal, and he's gone. It looks like he's going to either have to medically retire or find another chance in the portal. Not sure if that case, but he's not on the roster anymore. Hip injury just wasn't working for him. And that's unfortunate, but that's just part of the game. And hopefully he can stick in the world of football, maybe coaching, something like that. But I wish him luck. But only 5 running backs on the roster as of right now. Junior Dylan Edwards, sophomore Joe Jackson being that 1-2 punch for Kansas State. But then other than that, you have 3 freshmen with no experience on this roster. Devin Rice, J.B. Price, and Montario Elston. So I think they have to add at least one more running back to the group. And they were rumored to bring in a running back, Chamar Brown, but he just committed to the Miami Hurricanes. So that's not happening. So there was some rumors that they were in conversations with him, but it didn't work out. He's going to the U. So as of right now, I don't know any other rumblings. We'll see if that does happen. I'll take that back. We know something's going to happen because it absolutely have to. If they were trying to go after some other running backs, it means it's on their mind. It's just that one that I mentioned didn't work. The names of who they're looking at right now, I'm not sure of at the moment. But I will say if I looked at the players that they have, I would hope they'd go for a little bit of size. Joe Jackson's a pretty big running back, kind of almost the same size as DJ Giddens was this past season. I think, 212, 215 pounds. I wouldn't mind another one of those running backs, maybe even a little bigger. I mean, if you could find me a 230-pound running back that's okay with taking some HB dives up the A-gap and goal line situations to make sure Joe Jackson doesn't get hurt in those situations because he does have some injury history. And also the reason I didn't bring Dylan Edwards up before I brought up Joe Jackson is because you're probably going to use Dylan Edwards in other situations other than every down running back. You're going to probably put him out in the slot. You're going to probably utilize him in different ways, maybe in a wing offensive style. So I have a feeling that Dylan Edwards and Joe Jackson are going to get a lot of playing time, which also means whoever you most likely bring into from the portal, assuming one of these freshmen don't step up, and that's quite possible, and I really kind of hope that happens. But if you bring a guy in from the portal, you can really market and incentivize saying, look, you're going to get playing time. It's going to happen. We tried to bring in a guy from the portal. We had the idea of him taking this, being potentially a running back 3, but the injuries. It's not that he didn't work out in the case of performance or not getting playing time. It was the injuries. So you, Mr. Portal Edition, that we're still trying to get, you can be that guy. So I think there's a prime opportunity for somebody out there to come to Kansas State that are still left out in the portal. Maybe it doesn't cost an arm and a leg with NIL. It's just a matter of fact of who will it be. And we'll find that out very soon, I think. I think we're going to get to this period, now that spring ball is done, is they're going to maybe add 1 or 2 more pieces. A running back and maybe someone else. We'll see if it's maybe defensive line or maybe they go elsewhere. And I think we're going to almost go to radio silence for a little bit when it comes to K-State football as they get ready for their finals, go into the summer, and then before they prepare for fall camp. Probably be a couple weeks there. So stay tuned. We'll still have you covered here at Locked On Kansas State. We're still going to have full coverage talking about different storylines across not only Kansas State, but all the Big 12 and college sports. We're going to have you covered here every single day, so don't go away. We're not going radio silent. And video didn't kill the radio star. I'm looking right at you if you're watching on YouTube. Hat backwards and everything. Thanks for that YouTube comment, by the way. So this is where I think we're at. I think running back is a need. Wide receiver was a need this winter, but they took care of that with size. With Jared Bradley, Jaron Tips, they even brought Caleb Medford in. But that size is impressive. So now, what's that one piece needed? I think you're always trying to look to improve. Right now, for me, that's running back. RB3. And I hope that RB3 is a bruiser. That's what I'm hoping for next on this one. This team is proving that they have the depth, the tools, and the squad to make a deep run in 2025. As I mentioned, I think we're nitpicking now. I said the priority to this team at this moment, in my opinion, is running back 3. This team is proving that they have what it takes to make the college football playoffs, because I think making it is absolutely possible. Finding themselves in the Big 12 championship, winning it, getting that automatic bye. Even if they don't win the Big 12 championship, I do think that there's going to be 2 Big 12 teams in there this year. I just really do. I really do. 24/7 Sports, gopowercat.com, one of their daily delivery shout Fitz. I think he does a great job with covering Kansas State. I don't think I have to tell you that. He's been doing it for a very long time. He came out with one of his things the other day. One of his questions was talking about, does fans care more about winning the Big 12 or going to the national championship or making and winning the national championship? And I left the comment on there, and I loved the conversation and really loved his joke about Mel Kiper, by the way. Glad I wasn't drinking coffee at the moment. But I actually really think that the priority for this team, as of right now, national championship sounds great. Don't get me wrong. But I think winning the Big 12 championship is huge. And I think that should be the goal. Because with this new 12-team college football playoffs, it almost, and if I'm wrong, and if you think I'm out the right field, let me know. But it almost feels a little bit like March Madness. Once you get to the dance, anything's possible. Now, there's some byes involved, some bye weeks, and that's the only thing that doesn't go into play with the 64-team bracket. I guess if you wanted to put the first four in there, I guess that could be kind of what you're referring to, right? But I really, truly feel that if you win the Big 12, then you are feeling up in the world. You're feeling great. How do we feel about Arizona State right now? We think that they shocked the world. They were ranked at the very bottom, last place in the media preseason poll, won the Big 12, and was a couple plays away from winning against Texas to go to the next round in the college football playoffs, showing that anything is possible once you get to the dance. So as we get it going to May here, I again think it's crazy to say that this team has the potential to win a national championship, or is going to be in the national championship. Forgive me, because I think they have the potential. I think it's crazy to say they're going to get there, but I don't think it's crazy saying they can most definitely make the 12-team college football playoffs, and they will. And I don't think it's crazy saying that they will make the Big 12 championship and win it, because I think they do. Don't think that's crazy at all. Let me know your thoughts in the comment description below. Let's go into the next segment here to finish this one up. Will Howard gets drafted, former Kansas State quarterback, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and one of a Pittsburgh Steeler great had some great things to say about him. And what does this mean for Kansas State quarterbacks of the future, for potential like Avery Johnson going to the NFL draft? Do we have to worry about that just yet? We'll talk about that to finish this show up right here on Locked On Kansas State. This episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, from dining out and online shopping to entertainment, it is very easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. No, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending all in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I first started Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget even smarter and save more. So take out the stress of your finances with Monarch Money and take control. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. Will Howard getting drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 6th round this past weekend. And again, great feeling. Former Kansas State Wildcats, 4 of them drafted. Another year where multiple Kansas State players are in the draft. Over the past 3 years, we're getting day 1 or day 2 picks. It's just a really good feeling seeing the development happen from the players in Manhattan. And I think that's another reason why, as we kind of go full circle here, we're having such success of players sticking around and coming in the transfer portal. Chris Klieman is building a program that not only competes at the top of the Big 12, but brings NFL talent and produces NFL talent. When Marquise Siegel transferred in to Kansas State, during his initial press conference, Chris Klieman said this is going to be an NFL player. And he was drafted in the 5th round this past weekend. That had the player I'm just about to talk about, who just won a national championship with Ohio State. Before he did that, he was a Kansas State Wildcats quarterback, helped win us a Big 12 championship in 2022, and is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. And probably one of the biggest question mark quarterback rooms in the entire NFL, because we don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to bring the old guy who is very close to qualifying from AARP benefits and Aaron Rodgers to potentially play this season? But Will Howard got some love from another Pittsburgh Steelers legend, and that is quarterback Big Ben, Ben Roethlisberger. On his podcast, Footballin' with Ben Roethlisberger, he talked about how he really loves the pick of Will Howard going to Pittsburgh. He said, quote, "I'm really excited about this pick. I just saw the clip of where he got to the call. To me, that's a love of the game. Not caring where you're getting drafted, not caring what round you're getting drafted, being excited to get to the NFL, that's what you want." Absolutely. And that just speaks Will Howard. I mean, this guy played with a chip on his shoulder. He wasn't recruited by some of his hometown schools like Penn State at the beginning of his career. Comes to Kansas State and has to fight off other players as well. Adrian Martinez takes his spot. Injuries happen. He gets another opportunity. It's crazy. But he finds a way to succeed. And then after his season at Ohio State, which didn't always go right, although it ended with a national championship, he finds himself with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He talks about the moment with what happened in the middle of the season with the Ohio State Buckeyes, where he slid to end the game against Oregon, which potentially could have made them not make the college football playoffs. I mean, they had to really run it back and make a lot of noise towards the end of the season. I think they only lost to Michigan after that game. And they found a way to make it all the way to the national championship and take care of Notre Dame at the very end of it. The reason I bring this up, one, it's Kansas State, former quarterback, great quarterback. I think, whether you love or hate the fact that he left for Ohio State, what he did here was great. Got us a Big 12 championship. But the reason I bring this up is because we have a quarterback right now, and it's sandwiching the beginning and the end of this segment here. It's all about Avery Johnson and this portal. And the fact that he didn't leave this year in the transfer portal because he wants to stick around and see this thing out. Well, if you remember, I was talking about some of the other quarterback names on that ESPN list. Some of the top said number one, for example, Garrett Nussmeier, of why he's the most impactful because he foregoed the NFL draft. That could be Avery Johnson this next season. Will Avery Johnson go to the NFL draft after this year? I think he has the potential to be a great NFL quarterback. He has the physical traits. He has all those, the size. He has the speed. He is a great quarterback. I think he has learned and developed really good his first year. We'll see what happens in year two. But I think this past draft, and NIL, of course, you can't forget about that, might have helped that actually not become a reality and might help us keep Avery Johnson around for one more season past this year. Think of Shedeur Sanders with the whole thing that happened there. I don't think I have to explain that one, but obviously him being a top 5 pick projected and falls to the 5th round. That's one. Quinn Ewers didn't get drafted, quarterback from Texas, didn't get drafted to the 7th round. Those are 2 players right there that had eligibility to return to college if they didn't declare for the NFL draft. Do you want that to be your fate if you're Avery Johnson, who, for the record, next season is set to be a better quarterback class in the eyes of what everybody's talking about with NFL scouts? Now, could Avery Johnson find himself in a spot in that awesome quarterback class? I think so. I absolutely think so. But as we mentioned in an episode I think yesterday, national media pundits are already sleeping on him. So could the same thing happen if he declared early? As I mentioned, he's got the physical tools to play on Sundays and not just be a quality backup like some of these past K-State quarterbacks are in the league right now. And that's not a knock on them, for the record. If you made it to the league and you're sticking around, you're doing something right. So that's not a knock on them. Not a knock on Skylar Thompson. Not a knock on potentially Will Howard. Not a knock on Adrian Martinez. Not a knock on them. But I think Avery Johnson has the tools to be a starter in this league in the NFL on Sundays. But the way that they're, unless he completely balls out, which is absolutely possible, I think you have to go around this whole narrative of him being potentially a 5th or 6th rounder. And I think next year that feels a lot different than how it does right now at Will Howard, because of the amount of quarterbacks like an Arch Manning, like a Sam Levitt, like a Drew Aller, like a Garrett Nussmeier, who are planning to go into the NFL draft next year, Cade Klubnik, that could be seen in the national media eyes, not mine, as better quarterbacks to lead a NFL franchise. So it might be smart for him to stick around one more year, and that could be just another step forward to building this program that much better. Something to think about as we finish up and start off this first day of May. Isn't it crazy we're already in May? Absolutely insane. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings, so be sure to be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. And this has been, as always, Locked On Kansas State.